Welcome to the Rising Society podcast. I'm Shane Kennedy.
I'm Nico Galliano, the rejected gentleman.
All right, so what are we going to talk about tonight, Nico?
Dude, I think we actually have an interesting list here. I think we are talking about the draft possibly coming back, correct? And we have the Trump indictment, and then I believe there's something else we're going to talk about.
Oh, and the credit rating.
Credit rating.
The United States.
Rating, that's right.
Before we get into any of that, I was just thinking about countries in the world whose names begin with I, and
there's a lot of them.
Well, it's really interesting that if you compare Italy and Ireland, alphabetically speaking, Ireland would come first and Italy would come second. Just like with really everything else, that Ireland is in first place and Italy is in second, you know?
No, because like a salad comes before the steak, but it's not fucking better. You know what I mean?
Well, it depends on what kind of salad you're talking about.
No. I don't care if it's a Caesar fucking salad, which is Italian. It's not better than a steak.
What if it's a 1905 salad? What if it's really good chicken salad? What if it's really good Irish potato salad?
I will give you this challenge. We will do a poll on Facebook. You can pick clip it. You can pick any salad you want, and I'll just pick steak. Cook to your preference. You could actually pick any salad you want. I throw down the gauntlet, and I pick steak, and let's see who gets more votes.
All right, you know what? Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So on Spotify, we're gonna
write it down. Write it down.
All right, so
salad versus steak.
Poll.
Shane's salad, whatever you want. You heard it here. No restrictions. You pick the salad. Fucker can be loaded up with whatever you want. I'll even let you pick a steak salad. Little bits of steak in it.
So the question I'm going to ask is, why is salad better than steak?
No, don't worry.
So that's going to be the poll question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, we'll work on that together.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And you know, I'm also going to see if we let's get Facebook in on this. Let's get Twitter in on this, Instagram in on this. You know, they're all very fair and balanced. So
we could post this anywhere you want as long as it's not a vegan website.
Okay. Yeah, so my original statement, just to be clear, is that salad, any kind of salad, is always better than one of your fake meat steaks.
No. Yep. My real meat.
Now, if we're talking about real meat, steak is better than salad.
Was that your out? Because you got nervous?
Yeah. But listen, Ireland is still better than Italy.
100% untrue.
Ireland is the best. It's better than Italy.
Why don't we have a whole podcast? We'll do like an hour podcast.
Let's do it.
You bring your Ireland facts. I'll bring my Italian facts. No, from the beginning of Ireland to present day, the beginning of Italy to present day. And at the end of that podcast, we will let people vote on which one's better.
So this is the thing. Everybody loves Ireland. Mm-hmm. Everybody.
Everyone loves Italy.
And this is the thing. Every Italian, they never say this, but every Italian, they secretly want to be Irish.
No.
Yes.
False.
Yep.
False.
Why do you think they have green in their flag? It's because they want to be Irish. And why do you think their flag? So the Italian flag is green, white, and red, right?
Correct.
The only reason, and this is science, the only reason that they picked red was because orange was already taken.
What's your point?
Because they want to be Ireland. Italy wants to be Ireland. Every Italian wants to be Irish, but they're not. Mm-hmm. They're not Ireland and they're not Irish. But you know what? The Irish are such a welcoming people that, look, if they want to celebrate St. Patrick's Day with us, then we'll celebrate St. Patrick's Day with you.
What do you think brings more money in the United States? St. Patrick's Day or Valentine's Day?
Well, I can see where you're going with this. And St. Valentine's Day, that's a Catholic holiday. Mm. So the Irish and Italians are both Catholics.
What was St. Valentine?
St. Valentine, I believe he was Latin in some way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, let's move on then.
Okay.
We will have that podcast. Italy versus Ireland. That's what the podcast will be named. I'll even let you name it Ireland versus Italy. That way you can come first.
Well, that would only be appropriate because alphabetically speaking, Ireland would come first before Italy does because it's IR instead of IT.
Yeah.
So yeah, all right. So that's what we'll do. So we'll compare Irish culture to Italian culture. We'll compare Irish literature, music,
art,
food,
literature, food,
everything,
customs,
cars.
Oh
yeah, man.
Listen, all of it.
Listen. Ireland has got it all over Italy. They always have. They always will. Because at the end of the day, every Italian
destinations. How many people go to Ireland versus how many people go to Italy for vacation?
There are a lot of people that go to Ireland.
No, I'm sure there are
a lot of people that go to Ireland
more than Italy. We'll talk about it.
We'll just remember
facts.
Remember something.
Yeah.
Ireland is at the end of the rainbow, and people are always going to Ireland. They're looking for their pot of gold, and they're always looking to fill their heart with a little bit of blarney.
Ireland is at the end of the rainbow. Like that gold's out there. You're always looking for it, but somehow you just never happen to find it. It's just like you probably always plan to go to Ireland on vacation, but you just never end up going. And you know where they do go though? Fucking Italy.
Yeah, they go to Italy. They have a meal there. It's like a Carrabba's style meal, like Olive Garden style meal or something. And then they leave, and then they come back to the United States, and they say, that lasagna was really good in Italy. I'm going to try some at Carrabba's, and then they go to Carrabba's, and they're like, this lasagna at Carrabba's, it was better than what I had in Italy.
You guys gave us McDonald's.
Just for the record, it's the most popular restaurant in the world, isn't it?
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yep. And also too, McDonald's it's the highest number of restaurants in the world,
and it keeps up with the tradition of Ireland. Like you guys are known for having the highest heart attacks. McDonald's also gives out the most amount of heart attacks in the world.
That's not fair because that's one particular county. That's one little tiny.
And where's that county located? In which country?
It's technically in the Republic of Ireland. Okay. And I don't remember what the county is.
But Mediterranean diets are some of the healthiest diets on the planet, I believe.
Some say that, yeah.
Would you say that?
I'm not a scientist, so
would you say that?
I'm not going to go on record saying
your
that.
Personal opinion.
It's something I don't really have a personal opinion on that. It's something I'd like to go and consult the science, and then
I've heard you say it.
Then I'll form my opinion.
I've heard you say that
science.
Mediterranean diets are super healthy. You've eaten a Mediterranean diet before.
What is a Mediterranean diet?
The whole Mediterranean diet.
What am I supposed to go do? Eat Italian soil? What? Just tell me what are some of the things in the Mediterranean diet?
Have you not said the Mediterranean diet is one of the healthiest diets on the planet? Have you made that statement?
I have said that the Mediterranean diet can be a healthy diet. Yeah,
I'm not gonna let you clip it. I'm not gonna let you wiggle out of this.
But the thing is, the Irish diet can also be very healthy too because the Irish are world renowned for raising cattle, and Irish dairy is some of the best dairy in the world. Some of the best butter in the world comes from Ireland. Have you ever heard of a little butter company called Kerrygold? Yeah, you're welcome.
You guys don't really have a good history of growing food though.
We have an excellent history of growing food, but unfortunately, we also have a history of the damn British coming over and screwing everything up for us.
The British also have better food than you.
No, they don't. No, the British have some of the worst food in the world.
Oh shit. We will have this.
Okay.
Ireland versus Italy.
Now here. I think one note that we can both agree on is that Ireland and Italy both have better cultures, better food, better music, and everything than the British do.
Correct.
Yep. And also too a better literary tradition, a better philosophical tradition than the Germans too.
Nope.
Are you really going to sit here and try to defend like Marx and Hegel?
I would say Germany's more interesting than Ireland.
Interesting in a wrong way.
No, interesting all the way across.
So do you think Marx is correct? You think Hegel is correct?
I don't.
Do you think Kaiser Wilhelm was correct? Do you agree with the Nazi Party?
No.
Okay.
Do you agree with the NRA? No.
Well, I was going to say yes, I do. The National Rifle Association.
Holy shit, dude! These Japanese bourbons slap, dude.
Now they are really good at making whiskey, really second to Irish whiskey.
Dude, they just came out with the vodka I saw.
The Japs?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not bad. So, anyways, where are we going with this?
They've really come a long way, haven't they?
I meant the IRA.
Oh, the IRA.
You agree with them?
Well, it's kind of funny that you mentioned the NRA because the IRA are some of the biggest
supporters of the NRA?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think of a way to delicately say this without offending anybody, but the IRA they're big believers in the Second Amendment,
Correct. Sorry.
They go around the world and they're very big believers in people's rights to self-defense. So
some would say that.
Yeah. So the IRA they're very big believers in people having the ability to defend themselves. That's one of the reasons that they do what they do,
Yep. No, I hear you.
And also too, if the British hadn't have illegally occupied Ireland, then the IRA would have never had the IRA never would have come into existence because they never would have had a reason to.
That's true. There's a lot of bad blood between there. What is it? It's Ireland. I'm not well versed. It's Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and England. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else there?
I think it's like the Isle of Man or something. It is another tiny little part of.
But that's the
UK.
United Kingdom, right?
Yeah, but I think it's the Isle of Man or it's one of these little islands that was its own separate kingdom that's rolled into the UK too.
So there's 5?
I think it's 5.
Does that island really count, or is it like Puerto Rico?
Well, I think it counted at the time. Sort of like, but no, and the thing is, I don't really I don't have a whole lot of affinity for the English.
I don't either.
I do, however, have affinity for the Welsh because the Welsh are very independent and the Welsh don't like the English.
Yep.
And then I have respect for the Scots too.
The Scots are some of my favorite people. I would say the Scots are the greatest out of all those.
Well, yeah, out of like the mainland.
No, like
British.
Ireland, England. and
No,
Wales.
the Irish are the best by far.
No, the Scots.
No. I would agree with you that the Scots are like third best. That the Welsh are second to the Irish, and then the Scots, and then
I
the
like
English.
the Scots the best. The whole region.
Okay, well, I guess we can agree to disagree that you're wrong and I'm right.
I can't make you be right.
Right, exactly.
Because you're wrong.
Well, the thing is, I am right, and you are wrong.
Okay.
And especially since you are wrong, you can't force anybody to be right because you're wrong.
You are wrong. Okay,
No.
got it.
So okay, all right. So
All right.
So we just exchanged a lot of blarney there.
Yeah.
Well, at least a lot of blarney was being exchanged from your end.
Oh.
And then a lot of true statements were being exchanged from my end. But
This will happen in a future podcast.
let's do it. All right, so let's move on to talk about the military draft. So, I had thought that the draft was kind of it was kind of something that was settled and done, that this thing had been buried in American history.
Oh, you didn't figure it'd ever come back?
No, I didn't think that it would come back unless we were involved in some cataclysmic battle for the homeland. Like if some big foreign power was getting ready to invade, to invade the United States from one of our shores, then I could see a draft or mobilization happening. But
You didn't think we'd see one in our lifetime.
right, no.
Now it's looking very plausible, correct?
So there's
No political candidate has come out in support of it yet, right?
right, but remember that politicians say the thoughts and think the thoughts.
Did I say presidential or political? I'm sorry.
Political.
Okay.
But politicians they say the thoughts and think the thoughts that they're told to say and think by the DC think tanks, And
that's where this is circulating, correct?
right. And there are three big mouthpieces of the military think tanks. There's the Council on Foreign Relations, and then there's also the RAND Corporation, and then there is kind of a nexus of them all, which is military.com. Which military.com, it's kind of like a news website, but it's kind of attached to the military industrial complex. And there have been a lot of opinion pieces that have been floated from these think tanks saying, well, maybe it's time for us to reenact a peacetime draft. You know, and the reason that they're saying it is that recruitment is down.
I was about to say, I haven't
among all the branches of the military.
Yeah, we didn't look at this. I had not looked at the statistics on this since C word. I don't know if we can get blocked for that or not anymore. But back then, I was looking at the recruitment declines, right? Because of forced things that were going on, like the jab.
The jab,
Yeah. So I knew it took it, but it hasn't recovered. We're still at an all-time low for people going into the military.
Well, we were actually at a low when the COVID thing first started.
Oh, we were already in a low.
Yep.
Okay, so people don't want to join the military anymore.
Right, and what a lot of these articles, so there was an article from military.com, and then there was another one from the Council on Foreign Relations. And what they were saying was that the military, the US military brand has experienced a lot of like brand damage since the war on terror. You know the military is not viewed as highly.
It's ice machine.
Oh, okay. The U.S. military, it's not viewed. It's not viewed as highly with the same high quality reputation that it was viewed. With like in 2001. You know, in 2001, the military was viewed as being objective, pure, more defensive and stuff like that. And unfortunately now, as a result of the war on terror and all the stuff we're doing all around the world, in Syria, stuff we did in Iraq, the stuff we did in Libya, the stuff that we're doing everywhere all the time now, the military is viewed by the U.S. public as being kind of a tool that's been co-opted by big companies.
Correct.
And so
the highest bidder, basically.
Yeah.
All the big corps get to use the U.S. military
because
of American interest.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing is you have a lot of people that are very patriotic that want to lend their life to defend the interest of our country. But the problem is that you've had these assholes that have clawed their way into power in DC and in the Pentagon that have turned the military into a profit-making machine, which it has been for a long time.
Yeah.
Military, selling munitions to the military, that's a very, very high profit industry. Very, very high profit
business. This didn't come because of the war on terror. This has been...
Well, a five-star general, Dwight D. Eisenhower, at the very end of his presidential administration, he's the one that coined the term the military-industrial complex. And he instructed the country, he said after World War II, the United States has a permanent weapons industry that's super high profit, that's a true threat to our way of life and to our way of governing ourselves. And he warned us. He said, do you remember what exactly he said?
I do not.
Yeah. But he said that the military-industrial complex, that we need to be aware of it, we need to be on guard of it, or we need to be on guard against it because it's something that could threaten our liberties.
I'm surprised he didn't get in a car wreck or something. Or hang himself.
He was at the end of his political career.
So he could talk shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had already. He was going into retirement. In fact, I'm going to look up what his exact words were. Do you want to throw your thoughts
absolutely.
out?
So, look, my thoughts on the draft. I'm obviously against the draft. I don't think you can force people to basically sacrifice their life. I think that's why when people join the military, right? I know we've kind of glorified it because the biggest people that join the military, I think, is between 18 and 24. Might be a little older. I think it's 18 and 24 are the biggest people.
I think you're right.
That's the majority of our military. And that's why it's so hard to... You're giving them, $1 million piece of equipment. You're investing millions of dollars in training into these, I almost said soldiers, but that's an army term, I guess, into the military itself. So I do think there's a lot of noble effort on people when they join the military. My nephew actually just joined the Marines.
Good for him.
He's in boot camp right now. And I have a high respect for the military because it is a choice to go in. Now, I don't agree with what America does with our military. I don't agree on sending them off to wars that aren't truly in American interest and having them die. I hate that. I think that any politician that votes on certain wars should personally go to all these houses and hand out the flag to the family. They should have to look them in the eyes because their kids certainly aren't joining. And if they do join, there's certainly never going to be an actual wartime. You know what I mean? So when someone does join, I have a high respect for people because they're saying, I'm going to take 4 years of my life and I'm going to give it to my country. The idea of it has a lot of nobleness to it, right? A lot of self-sacrifice. I like that. When you take that away and you say that the draft, you can be yanked into it, right? That you can be yanked into this role to have to die. I find that interesting. A lot of people go, well, you live in this country and you bear the fruits of the freedoms of this country, so you should have to do that. And I've always grappled with that, like an internal debate. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that people should be able to get the fruits of living in America without being able to be drafted, or should that be, we get the right to vote, right? Which is why we get the draft, right? Because men have the right to vote, so you should be drafted. Somehow women skipped all that, went around it. They don't have to be.
Yeah, well traditionally, the idea was that men could be drafted and women couldn't. So at least in terms of voting for federal office, that it would only be fair for men to, because they would be the ones that would be called upon. Men
Correct.
were drafted into the Continental Army. Men were drafted into the Union and Confederate armies during the Civil War. Men were drafted into the Federal Army for the War of 1812.
What they call
Mexican American War? Conscription.
Conscription. Thank you.
And earlier you said that you respect people that join the military, and I agree with you. I echo that, and in fact, I think that when our leaders unnecessarily put them in harm's way, our leaders are showing them the greatest amount of disrespect that anybody could show those people who are making the decision to put their lives on the line to be on call and be on duty to defend our country if the need arises.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Because the thing is, we owe them respect, and the respect that we owe them is to not waste their time and not to put them in harm's way unnecessarily. The respect we owe them is to allow them to continuously improve themselves, to put them in positions where they're able to plant their life, start their life, and develop their skill sets. Like let's say that they enter into the Navy as a sailor. They go in learning the basics. If they don't get stationed abroad unnecessarily in some random line of fire, like they don't get put in some corner of the Pacific where they're just a military piece designed to tempt the Chinese, in this dick measuring contest that DC has with China over Taiwan. It's showing our sailors disrespect by unnecessarily putting them into the Taiwan Strait as a sitting duck to be fired upon.
They sell into their waters all the time and then sell out. It's kind of like
But what's beneficial to us and to them also is to have those sailors here at home, or to have those sailors stationed at a base where they can learn more skills. Let's say that they're a basic sailor. Maybe they haven't the aptitude to know how to be a sonar tech or to know how to be a radar tech. You know, our military has the resources to teach them how to do those things.
Correct.
You know, or maybe to teach them a second language or a third language or something. You know,
So when they are introduced back into society, they become that much more valuable to society.
yeah, but not just that. If they are or if there is a moment where they are needed to go and intervene to defend our country, if they speak 3 languages, you know, it's going to make them even more effective at defending our country than if they spoke 2 languages. You know, if they know how to read a radar or read a sonar screen, you know, that makes them even more effective.
But people do get, you get your job qualifications, and it depends in every branch of the military, depending on what
you
your
get
job
your
is.
orders, right? I think they call those orders.
Yeah,
like to report to a base. And
no, you pick it before you go in what you want your job to be.
Well, you
get several choices.
You get to rank. You kind of like rank. It's rank
Yeah.
choice, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah, and if you don't,
Well, you got to meet qualifications too.
Yeah.
So you got to take certain IQ tests, stuff like that. You got to make physical standards for certain things. You know.
You know, and also too, I think that, I think when you're talking about, because so we have been an all volunteer military for about 50 years now, and since 1973.
Correct. Yeah.
And I think that when you're an all volunteer military, it does put pressure. It does put pressure on the politicians in DC because if they're using the military for a bunch of bullshit, you know, they're putting the military in as sitting ducks here, or they want sailors or airmen or soldiers or something to go be stationed somewhere where they don't need to be. What it does is it's going to make people not want to join. You know, people. You know how when we talk about with the market economy, people vote with their dollars. When it comes to the military, and how much the American public support what the military is doing or what the military isn't doing, and it's all based upon the whims of politicians. If the American people buy into and support what the military is being called to do, then they're going to be higher enlistment numbers.
Hint, 9/11.
Yeah. But if they do not support what the military is doing, then young men are going to say, that's not worth my time. I'm not going to go and join. I'm not going to go and volunteer for the military if I'm going to go and fight in some useless war.
Hint, Ukraine.
Exactly.
Verge of it.
Well, and I think that right there is kind of I think that's the unspoken thing here is.
I spoke it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying what everyone's thinking.
Yeah. Your average young person who's considering signing up for the military for any of the branches, by and large, they don't want to go and fight in some useless war against the Russians or against the Chinese. They don't want to get nuked.
It was a hot talking piece, and everyone flew the little flags around their Facebook banners that they were all like, "Go Ukraine," but none of them would join the military.
Right.
And if we went to war tomorrow with Russia, no one's joining. No one's doing it.
Well, and you want to know something that's kind of ironic to me is the same class of people that will just whine and complain and say there are too many kids, people are having too many children. These are the same people that are whining and complaining that there aren't enough that military recruitment is down. This is dangerous. There aren't enough people signing up for the military. We may need to enact a draft. Well, you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you want to discourage people from having kids and you want them to abort and contracept their future children, then don't bitch and complain when there aren't enough people to fill the ranks of the military.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's simple as that.
You've already cut the numbers down.
Right.
Who's going to do it?
Yeah, so I really think it's very ironic that your people that this complaining and this whole the whole casually throwing out, well maybe we'll do like a soft military draft. Well, we're going to do maybe we should consider doing a peacetime draft. These are all the same people that are saying, well, we need to stop having children because of climate change. or anybody who has children are selfish because of climate change. Well, it's kind of funny that I think the U.S. military is the single biggest carbon gas emitter on the planet.
Yes.
It's just funny how they invoke the name of climate change in certain respects and then they don't in other respects. They invoke a disdain for children in certain respects, and then when it comes time for there to be recruitment in the military, then they want kids. Then they want young people to go and fill the ranks of the military.
Yes.
What do you think? I just kind of ranted.
No, dude, I'm with you 100%. Except your 90s liberals, weren't they, for the most part, they were for decreasing the military, correct?
Yes. So the decrease in the military was going to happen in the 90s no matter what. Both political parties were in favor of it. In fact, they called it the peace dividend because the whole idea was that with the end of the Cold War, it gave us the opportunity to significantly scale back our military. In fact, the way that they talked in the early 90s when the Soviet Union fell, American politicians in both parties spoke as if we were going to really significantly scale back the military, and we did scale the military back, but not nearly as much as we had expected. The politicians were going to push for.
Well, they gutted the Navy, right?
They did.
Didn't they take it down half its ships?
Yeah, but you got to remember.
But they were just mostly decommissioning old ass World War II ships.
That's what I was going to say. Is
it was kind of disingenuous.
For the most part today, a lot of naval carriers and a lot of battleships are kind of outdated.
I don't even know if we have battleships anymore, do we?
We do, and the primary use of a battleship today is to launch cruise missiles from. Now you can also do that from a submarine. You can also do that from a U.S. carrier. But the problem is when you're talking about a carrier, I've seen one in person. I'm sure that you have. Well, you were born on a Navy base in California, right?
I was not born on a Navy base.
Or you grew up on one when you were a kid, right?
When I was younger.
Okay. So carriers are it's like a floating island. Those things are gigantic.
Yeah, they're massive.
So they're very beneficial because you can launch aircraft from them, but they also pose a big problem because they're so massive. They're a huge target.
Correct.
So they're a target for submarines. They're a target for missiles and bombers and all kinds of things. So really, in many ways, the Air Force is more important to the modern battlefield. Air superiority is more important to the modern battlefield in many cases than sea superiority was in terms of fighting for sea territory. Because back in the day, what they would do is, during World War II, we would go and fight the Japs for a portion of the Pacific, and it would be one of our battleships going up against one of their battleships, like two giant.
Yeah, but the
tanks.
planes got to launch from somewhere, so those carriers got to get close enough. So it still comes down to sea,
right? But the whole idea is
because you're fighting for airspace through the sea, because they have to fuel up and launch from somewhere.
But I guess the thing I would say is that back in the time of World War II, they were, the obsession on both sides was, well, where is the dividing line in the Pacific? So from this line we control everything to the right. The Japs control everything to the left. Now today we're not going to care all that much about who controls the biggest part of the ocean. What we're going to care about is who can get their carrier closer to the other side's mainland in a defensible spot where it puts the other person's mainland in range of your bombers. But to where it puts you far enough away from their land, coastal defense systems, which in the case of China, it makes up like 90% of their navy. It's like a massive glorified Coast Guard. You know, it's really the United States is the only country in the world that has a naval that has a navy that's based upon the premise of projecting power into other places. Everybody else has a navy that's based upon defending their coast.
I was going to say, I know some guys that work in the private sector, and actually, no, they don't. They are government. Both of them are government. They did start off in the private sector. They went government. The Japanese defense system over the last 15 years has increased massively. Massively. That's where they're dumping a lot of their money.
Yeah.
So, we'll see, man. They're kind of like a paper tiger, is what I've always heard.
Who, the Japs?
Huh? No,
you're talking about the Japs?
The Chinese.
Okay.
But you're like fixated on the Japanese, dude. We gotta let it go. Like, Jesus Christ, I'm moving to the Chinese. Like, we're not going to war with Japan. That's not. If there was gonna be a war, I'd be shocked if Japan was like, it's us again. You know what I mean? They're like round two.
Well, this is the thing. They learned.
They just got their fucking military back, like within the last, what was that, couple years?
So
this year. No, last year.
Like I think within the past 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, they just got it back. Holy shit, dude. Give them. They're not like, we've been waiting, motherfuckers.
So have you ever been to Pearl Harbor?
I have not.
Before. So I've been to Pearl Harbor. And I was there with some friends. A friend of mine was stationed in Hawaii, a friend that you know. And we were at Pearl Harbor, and fortunately we got to get on the ferry boat that took you out to the USS Arizona Memorial, where the Arizona was sunk.
That'd be awesome.
And I have got to say, about 75% of the people at Pearl Harbor and that were on that ferry boat at the USS Arizona Memorial, they were Japanese tourists. Like, speaking Japanese. They didn't speak English. And a friend of mine, when we were on the ferry on the way out there, leaned over to me and said, "Shane, why do you think there are so many Japanese tourists here? Don't you think this would be sort of like, this would be, this is like going back and revisiting a big mistake that your country made, like a humiliating mistake?" And I said that's the idea. Like, they're coming here so that they can learn about the biggest mistake that their country ever made in their history. Like Japan bombing Pearl Harbor, and there's a lot there when it comes to Pearl Harbor. Yeah, there's a lot there, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but there is a lot there.
No, but we're not conspiracy theorists because we believe in something until it becomes public knowledge.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
you guys were right.
Yeah. What do they say that conspiracy theorists are just they're just 5 years ahead or something?
Conspiracy theorists are just 5 years ahead of everyone else.
But the thing is, the Japanese. I told her, I said the Japanese are coming here because this is the greatest life lesson that any of them can learn. Is don't mess with the United States.
I will say this: the Japanese, culturally,
you could save time and just call them Japs.
Are one of my favorite people of all time.
Yeah, they're fascinating.
I love the Japanese. I'm talking from old days to about 1945. I really like the Japanese.
Did you know that they are very hostile toward immigration into Japan?
I would imagine so.
The Japanese are very, very hostile.
I don't know if it's still like this.
Oh, it is.
No. What I'm about to say, I don't know if it's still like this, but I know it was. Okinawans, they're Okinawan. Yep. They are not Japanese. They're like, no, we're Okinawan.
They're like the Sicilians.
Yeah, they're the
Japan.
They're the Sicilians of Japan. Those are some prideful people. I love Okinawans. I've only ever met one. But let me tell you, I'm like, oh, well, how does it be, I was like, Japan. I said, I love the Japanese. And he's like, oh, yeah. And I said, how does it feel being Japanese? He goes, I'm Okinawan. I was like, I don't know if this is like some like states like back in the day, like during the War of Southern Independence, that they're like, I'm a Virginian. I'm not a, I don't know if it was like that, but he was like, he stopped. He goes, I'm Okinawan. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, my bad.
The thing that I think my favorite part of Japan. So you said your favorite thing are Okinawans.
I mean, only met one guy and I was fascinated with him.
I would have to say my favorite aspect of Japan.
Sake.
No, it's those monkeys that that bathe in those hot water springs, and it's like a snow-capped mountain or something where they live.
Yeah.
And they I guess they just spend all their time in those hot spring pools. That's amazing to me.
Legend has it those are just tiny little Japanese people.
Oh, that they're just hairy?
Yeah, they're just hairy Japanese people.
Dude, that's crazy.
No, dude, Japan would be a place I would like to visit, and actually go to like all the major cities in Japan. I think that would be super cool.
Yeah, two places I'd be interested in seeing there are, what was the old capital, the original imperial capital? Because Tokyo was not the imperial capital. It was
It wasn't always Tokyo?
No, it was oh man, I'll look it up.
Yeah, I just think they're fascinating people. Like the idea that, dude, those people did not submit easily.
No.
Those are some people that would go down, literally. Go down with the ship. Tough bastards. Tough bastards. Are you typing with one finger?
Yeah, I'm doing it to be more efficient.
Oh.
It was Kyoto.
Kyoto, yes. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, a lot of history in Kyoto.
Yes, lot. That would be cool to visit.
Yeah.
But I would want to visit Tokyo too.
Well, and
Okinawa.
I know this is gonna be one thing that it would be at the top of my list to go and visit in Japan would be Tokyo Disneyland.
You think they do the same shit there?
No, it's probably better.
No, that's what I'm saying. You think they do all the weird, like, progressive shit there? Because Japanese are pretty conservative.
That's
the funny thing. They are really conservative.
Yeah. And they're very ethnocentric too.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna like that shit.
But I have always heard. So there are two parks in two Disney parks in Tokyo. There's Tokyo Disneyland, which is I've heard it's kind of like a carbon copy of the Disneyland in California.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now their other park is called Tokyo Disney Sea, and
it's a water park.
No, well, so it's perched right on Tokyo Bay. It's themed around the different seas of the world. Like there's a Mediterranean section, there's a Pacific section, there's an Atlantic section, and then it's got like a Persian section, and they have all these different, like in Iran they're right next to the Caspian Sea, I think is what it is. But it's got like 7 different themed lands.
Is it like Epcot where the ethnic people work there from those areas?
I think so.
Or is it just all Japanese people?
No. I think they break it up into different groups. Like in the, so I don't know this for sure, but in the Mediterranean section you would expect to see like Italians and
Greeks
and French and stuff like that.
But they speak Japanese.
Yeah, or they might be in like a college program, kind of similar to what they have at Walt Disney World.
Yeah, but it's not speak the language. Because even when I go to Epcot, like the Germans, like, here's your beer. Well, that was a horrible German accent.
Here is your beer.
Here's your beer, yeah.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I can't do German. Anyways, that would be really cool to go there.
Yeah. Well, and in the Americana section, it's sort of San Francisco themed, and they have a it's like an elevated tram that takes you around that section of the park. And then they have, I think when you enter into the Mediterranean section, and the entrance is also a hotel, and the Mediterranean section it's themed around Venice.
Okay,
but a lot of people say that is the best theme park in the world.
I want to go there. I'd spend a day
Disney
there.
Sea.
If I went to Japan, I don't want to go to Japan Disney. I would spend a day at the Japan Sea.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it's look it up. It's supposed to be so the rankings shift year by year, but
In Theme Park Wars?
like and also too as far as people who rate theme parks. But Tokyo Disney Sea is usually the top theme park, and then if it isn't the top theme park that year, it's usually like number 2.
Oh.
Yeah, it is. It's supposed to be fantastic. So we want to move on to briefly talk about the credit rating, right?
Correct. Yes.
So let's think about for a moment, how is it that someone's credit rating drops? What leads up to someone's credit rating dropping?
I would imagine you're probably maxing out your credit amount, so you have a fixed amount of credit that you're allotted, right, based off certain histories and other factors. And I imagine once you max that out, and if you're delinquent or you pay late a lot, you're delinquent, you haven't paid, you look like a bad investment, basically, right? Because that's what it is.
Yeah.
You're an investment to them. They're getting the interest off the money they loaned you, and they're going to get that back, and I'm sure they hope you do it in perpetuity, that you never pay them back fully.
No, yeah.
Right? They want to keep you on that wheel. So, a couple of things like that. What would you say?
It's a score. It's a score that is evaluating your ability to pay the credit back.
I thought you asked me what would make it drop. I apologize.
Oh, actually, that is what I asked you. So,
because you just defined it.
Yeah. So, so the thing that would make it drop is that there's some reason that the creditor believes that you will not be able to pay your bill back or to pay off your balance. Or maybe you are able to pay your balance back, but you're going to be delayed in it, or maybe there's a greater risk that you won't be able to pay it back, right? So this week, America's credit score dropped. Oof. We used to be AAA rated, now we're AA rated. So when you went to sleep, I think it was on Tuesday night, America's credit rating, or the credit rating of America's debt was AAA.
What's the highest you can get for everyone?
AAA.
AAA is the highest you can get. Okay.
When you woke up on Wednesday morning, America's credit rating had dropped from AAA to AA. So we lost an A.
And has this happened before in American history? Once again, I'm asking this for everyone out there.
The last time was in 2008, very, very briefly during the Great Recession.
By briefly, it was like 2.5 years, right?
Yeah. It was not long.
Yeah, it was not a long time.
But the thing is, because we are not in a recession.
But best economy ever, Jack.
Yep. Yeah, Jack.
Yeah.
Bidenomics.
That's right. Licking ice cream.
Yep.
Best one ever, Jack.
Yep. Yeah, Bidenomics for the win.
Yeah.
So the credit rating
Holy shit. Yeah.
Yeah, I just lost my train of thought, but
I guess you crashed and burned.
Yeah, sorry. But the credit rating dropped because the two agencies that dropped it were Fitch and Standard & Poor's, S&P, which both are huge credit agencies. And they dropped it. It wasn't what I was saying was they dropped it not because we're in a recession, because we're not.
We're not.
Jack. Yeah. They dropped it because they just said they don't think that they believe and they anticipate that America's politically unstable.
I concur.
You know, and they didn't directly say that, but if you go and look at their reasoning, you can put 2 and 2 together.
You can draw a line.
Yeah, exactly.
Safe to assume.
Yep.
I don't disagree with them.
You know, and yeah, exactly.
Politically, I don't know what we're going to do. We are politically insane right now.
We're stoking nuclear war with the Russians right now.
This is a wild time to be alive, dude.
If I were them, I would have dropped America's credit rating below AA.
Let me ask you something. Do you think Fitch and Standard & Poor, when they were like, hey, look, we got to rate these guys again. Obviously, they're not AAA. We're going to drop them down AA. Do you think they factored in the possibility of America not being able to pay back their debt, or, you know, not all of it, or not on time, or a multitude of factors? Do you think any of that factored in? They're like, because there might be an extraterrestrial threat out there? The alien thing. No one's talking about it, man.
You know, I hadn't thought about that.
Literally, I love that about millennials. We are so burnt as a generation, right? If you're a millennial, you're
pretty much
late 20s, early 40s.
Pretty much, you were born
1985.
Early 80s to the late 90s.
Okay, so you would be. I'm 33. You could be. Yeah, what I said. You would either be in your late 20s.
Dude, you're the most millennial that I know.
So you'd be in your mid to late 20s or your early 40s. Yeah, perfect. That generation's so burnt on all the shit that's happened in our lifetime. First time this, first time that. Shit hasn't seen it, right? Because the generation before us just had golden years, right?
Yeah.
We're so burnt on it that they even mentioned the possibility of aliens, and no one gave a fuck. We were like, nope, we're not doing it.
Well, because, you know, it just, this whole alien thing, it seems like it's a smokescreen.
We've had so many smoke screens, dude, that we don't even get excited about shit anymore.
Well, it's because the thing is, they're sitting there, they're like, oh yeah, they keep on poking the Russian bear. They're like, are they gonna nuke? Are they gonna drop a nuke? Are they gonna drop a nuke?
They did get us with the jab, though.
Yeah, they're like, are they gonna drop a nuke? Yeah, and then they're doing the whole jabby jab thing. Mm-hmm. And then also too, right now they're indicting President Trump. Mm-hmm. You know, they're doing all this wild shit. And then it's like, as a smokescreen, they're trying to say, but what about aliens? And this is the thing. So, you know, some people have called me a nerd before. You know, once or twice.
I have called you a nerd.
Exactly.
Before,
yeah, once or twice. Mm-hmm. And if you go and watch these congressional testimonies of these whistleblowers about UFOs and aliens and stuff,
they are former
that have come out recently.
Government agent. Like, one was a former Pentagon advisor.
Right.
What's his name? I don't remember.
So they're all former government guys. In fact, 1 or 2 of them I think are former CIA guys. Mm-hmm. This is the interesting thing to me. Not one of them are coming out and saying under oath that they directly witnessed an alien, or that they directly witnessed an alien body. What they're saying is that, what they're coming under oath and saying is that they think they heard somebody mention it in a conversation.
They asked him specifically.
It's all hearsay.
When these crash sites were investigated, where their life forms, where their pilots basically, were their life forms. And he said, I can tell you there was biometrics found in the crash site.
He might as well have just been to a Taylor Swift concert. Dude, like you know, like these people, I mean, they're just like, I mean, what's the point in you even testifying then? You know, if you're going to be like, oh, there's like, it's biometric. You know, they're just going to testify and say, yeah, it's biometric. Or
there were biometric life forms found. Which means something.
It's like, so what does that mean? A cat? Did you see a cat?
That means there's a living thing piloting this. That we're not human. I didn't finish that. What the fuck was flying it? And they asked him, well, when was this found? He said the 1930s was our first time.
But according to the testimony, how did he come to know that this happened? He came to know that this happened because he overheard a conversation somebody else was having, or somebody who's undisclosed came to him and told him that.
Well, because there was certain part of the testimonies he could only give. What's the rooms they go in where they ping off the fucking?
Oh yeah, the closed sessions.
Yeah, it's like CIA bullshit.
Oh, skiff. a skiff.
A skiff room, yeah. So it's with the fucking pingy things. So yeah, he said he could only give the rest of the testimony in a skiff.
But this is the thing. At the end of the day, these guys are not coming up and saying,
not.
"I was at the crash site.
I saw the motherfucker." Yeah, they're not saying that.
I saw a dead biometric non-human. The thing that they're going to Congress and confidently saying, well, actually, they're doing one of two things. So one, they're either going to Congress, they're confidently saying, I overheard somebody say that they thought they saw a non-human at a supposed crash site, or
from the 1930s.
Yeah, or they go there and they're like, I think I just went to a Taylor Swift concert, but I don't remember.
My memory's erased.
Yeah, they're just like,
I might have been there, I might not have been there.
Yeah, they're just like, are you Taylor Swift? They're just.
The only thing I know is my bank account is definitely $1,800 shorter. I don't know if I went though.
Yeah, and he's like, I definitely went to a Taylor Swift concert then, but I don't have any memory of it.
Dude, it's fucking wild. I can't keep the Scarlet for shit.
But the thing is, it's just it is just like when these people go to a Taylor Swift concert. Because if you were to ask these people that went to a Taylor Swift concert and they had their memory wiped there, that you're going to ask them, so were there other life forms at the concert? They're going to be like, well, I heard there were.
There was some biometrics on stage singing.
Yeah,
they definitely were human because I think they're demons. But
but they're going to be like, I heard about it secondhand.
Yeah, I heard someone talking about it 90 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's a you think it might be a little smoke and mirrors.
Yeah,
very convenient timing on the alien thing. I concur with you. As much as I think it'd be fascinating, right? We don't need that shit right now, and I do think it's a lot of look over here as they're doing some shit over here with this hand. Okay, so now that we agree that that's probably not factoring into the rating system, what do you think the implications of us being dropped down to AA in a politically unstable kind of world? The world's kind of deciding if they're going to go off the petrodollar or not. You know what I mean? We're redefining some lines. Some alliances are coming up with their own kind of currency to stabilize their sphere of influence. What do you think the implications are going to be on America dropping down to a AA?
Well, internationally, it's kind of a blow to America's reputation. I mean, it's really not. It's not that big of a blow because it's only going from AAA to AA. It's not going to like a C-.
Mm-hmm, yeah, we're still passing.
We're still passing with flying colors. But at the same time, what it means is that when the U.S. government is, because what happens is the U.S. government, when they do all the deficit spending, which is a big portion of the spending the U.S. government does, they're borrowing money. So the question is, how does that happen? Mm-hmm. What they do is the U.S. Treasury does what's called an auction, and they auction off the Treasury bills, which is the new federal debt. Mm-hmm. I think they do it quarterly. They might do it monthly. I'm not sure exactly. Not sure exactly when they do it. But what this is going to mean, because U.S. Treasury bills, because U.S. debt is basically has a lower credit score now. Mm-hmm. That means that the cost to borrow is going to be higher. So it's sort of like if somebody has a let's say a higher than average credit score, and then their credit score drops to like average, they're still going to be able to borrow money, but they're probably going to end up paying more. They'll probably qualify for a loan at a higher interest rate than they would have before. Mm-hmm. That same thing is going to happen with U.S. debt. Now, the problem is that's going to cause interest rates to go up across the board. So the Federal Reserve has been raising interest rates for a while now to try to combat inflation. Right? Yeah, gradually.
What is it, like 0.25% at a time usually?
Yeah, they're doing.
They went a couple 0.5%, didn't they?
Yeah, they've done a couple halves, but what this is going to do? This is going to be the equivalent of the Federal Reserve raising interest rates because mortgages and all kinds of credit in the country, it's very much tied to so those interest rates are very reflective of what the Treasury's interest rates are. If the interest rates that the Treasury can auction off debt for goes up, which means that their borrowing costs have gone up, that's going to be reflected in all debt across the country because a government being able to pay back their debt is viewed as being more likely than a private person or a private corporation, because you can't tax anybody to pay off your debt. Mm-hmm. The government can tax you to pay off their debt. Like, they can come here, they can show up at your house and they can confiscate your car. They can confiscate anything that they want from you. You know? And they can do that with anybody. So the idea is that government debt is typically treated as being the safest debt around. That's one of the reasons that like, especially U.S. government debt, typically the Treasury is able to auction Treasury bills off, which is the form that the bonds of the debt are auctioned off in.
Well, China is one of the biggest buyers of that, right? But is that still the case?
So China is not buying U.S. debt the way that they were. Mm-hmm. Russia is not. So that's another factor in all of this.
They're not buying our debt anymore, right?
Is what Janet Yellen and Anthony Blinken and President Biden have all done with weaponizing the dollar against Russia is they've weaponized the dollar against the United States. Because what they've done is they've shrunk the market to auction U.S. debt off to, which means that the borrowing costs of the government go up, which means that our borrowing costs across the board go up.
Yeah. Have you ever bought bonds? Is it the bonds we buy? Yeah, T-bonds, right? It would be the same thing.
When people buy a savings bond or something, you know, a savings bond is a Treasury bill. You know, it's just a very, very small form of it. You know, the type of Treasury bills that get auctioned off, though, we're talking like in the millions, hundreds of thousands, or in the denominations of millions. You know, have
you ever bought a bond?
Yeah, savings bonds.
You have?
Yeah.
I've never bought one.
Bought them and sold them.
Oh, you don't have them anymore? Mm-mm. You have never had faith in the American economy. I'm not.
Well, you know, I guess this is not investment advice.
Yeah, I'm not giving investment advice. You want to buy T-bonds, go buy them.
This is not investment advice. You know, neither one of us are financial advisors. This is not financial advice, but the things that I like to invest in, which are similar things to what you like to invest in, are commodities like gold and silver and stuff like that. And then also too, I really enjoy investing in uranium too.
One of the biggest things I actually invest in is collectibles, but that is 100%. So I speak out of both sides of my mouth. That is 100% reliable on the economy.
Yeah.
Because I promise you, if it gets tight, the last thing people are buying is fucking collectibles. That is just probably my biggest area where I've made the most money and where I'm most interested in. I invest the most time in. But for me, not investment advice, what I feel safe, my hardcore things are, I like to invest in gold, silver, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'll invest in those kind of areas. There's a couple other things I invest in, but I'll keep that off to the side. But yeah, collectibles is definitely my biggest percentage of my money is in collectibles, because I use that to stoke my day-to-day expenses and stuff like that. Buying, selling, flipping, it just depends. And then I have my private collection, my PC stuff that I'm holding on to for a while. But I'd sell that for the right price.
Which with collectibles, you know, something that I find interesting about it, you know, I don't do a whole lot with collectibles. Mm-hmm. I've tried a couple of times and I've gotten burned in it, you know, just because it's something that, for people who are not into the collectibles trade like me, it's very easy to look at it from the outside and think, oh, that's a no-brainer. That's super easy. But people who are good at collectibles and who are able to really master it, they're really good at anticipating what's going to trend in like a year. And they're really good at saying, oh, this is something that is not very popular right now, but just understanding demographics being what they are and what's trending now and what will probably trend in the future, this is probably going to become popular. it requires a lot of research.
I
And that's the reason I got burned a couple of times in it, is because I kind of thought it was just something like, you buy this, it'll go up 30% and you sell it in a year. And it just so happened that that I bought, it went down to like half the value of what I paid for it.
And I try to tell people, when you get into collectibles, every time I've done that, where I got, FOMO, fear of missing out, or you see a hot thing and you're not educated on it, you get burned. You usually get burned. Uneducated people, they pay the price. And that's where educated people make their money, is on the uneducated, unfortunately, in this sphere.
It hurts.
It hurts bad, and people lose a lot.
Yeah.
And there's always, like I said, this is investment advice, but my rules are I never use money I can't afford to lose. That's why I have my what I believe are very safe investments. I never invest money I can't afford to lose, and I never invest in things I'm not passionate about. If I don't have an interest in it, I'm not buying it, because I know I'm not going to be dedicated and put the time that's necessary. I'm not saying that I don't flip things. I need to be at least interested in it. And my biggest thing is I will not buy one thing until I've done 100 hours of research. Now, when I say that, that sounds insane. I don't mean on a particular, like, let's say, I won't invest in a Pikachu card over a Charizard card, right? I'm just picking Pokemon. I'm not invested in Pokemon. I have, like, very minimal, because it doesn't interest me. But let's say, I don't mean that. I'm saying, if you don't have 100 hours of research into Pokemon cards, the sphere, the IP of Pokemon.
Or you can say like baseball cards.
Baseball,
right?
A sport like that. If you're a football guy and you know football like the back of your hand, right? Don't just buy a baseball card because you know of one popular player. You need to put 100 hours in. 100 hours. And I know it seems like a lot, but it's really not. It goes quick. You need to put 100 hours in to the baseball card market. It is completely different than the football card market. So it's just interesting stuff like that. I don't know. I like it. But with this happening, it definitely in the market, like, because I think in 5, 10, 15, 20-year investment terms, especially with collectibles, what's this going to factor in? You know what I mean? What's our economy going to do? It's going to be interesting.
Well, and that's the thing that I think is really interesting about collectibles as somebody who's kind of an outsider looking into it. I think collectibles are really interesting because it's one of those things. If you really know what you're doing, you're kind of accomplishing two things. For people who are into collecting, it's entertaining. Mm-hmm. It's fun. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
And when you say 100 hours of research, if it's something that interests you, that 100 hours of research, it might feel like 5 minutes.
It will feel like 5 minutes. That's why my rule is it has to interest you. Because that 100-hour check mark, before you know it, you have hundreds of hours into something.
Yeah.
Just think, I know people that scroll through Facebook for 4 hours a day. You're on social media 4 hours a day. Don't tell me you can't do the research. Most of it's on social media. You can find reliable sources. You follow a couple guys that, you think aren't spouting shit. You buy into their mottos. You hear what they're saying, hear what they're doing. There's a lot of guys out there. Gary V's a big one that's pushing collectibles right now. I don't know if you know who that is, Gary Vaynerchuk. It doesn't have to be him. It can be anyone. I just know he's one of the probably more popular guys. And his argument is over the next 20 years, 15 to 20 years, is that these millennials, right, they're going to, the way people used to talk about different status symbols, they're not going to hang art on their wall. You know how that was a big thing, like art, people would invest in art. I'm not saying it's not still out there, but like now people are like, they're going to hang like some kind of, like maybe
like a comic book
or a special card or a jersey from a player, because that's what millennials are more interested in. We're not interested in, the art or the, even though they're still trying to push it, like the wine collection and stuff like that people used to do. Like, people don't buy china anymore as a decorative piece in their thing. That's not what we do. Like, I know I own a set of china that's been passed down from my grandmother to my mother, and I obviously, when I have a daughter, she wants me to give it to her, so I have it. What am I going to do with that shit? It sits in a cabinet that doesn't even exist in our house. Silverware, the one that you polish, the silver. Every family used to have that. They saved enough money to buy that. What the fuck I'm not bringing that shit out and then having to clean it. Like, do you remember when they would bring it out, the special silverware out of the box? Did you guys have it?
Yeah, I hated it.
Are you gonna bring that out at Thanksgiving with your kids? No. Hell no. It's just a change. You know what I mean?
Bring out plastic forks and stuff.
Yeah, it's like the cuckoo clocks. Every family had the grandfather clock or the cuckoo clock. That was from Germany. We're not doing that shit. That's not the same thing. So I do think that one of our biggest things was the cartoon revolution from the 60s all the way to the early 2000s. Right, every generation, especially through the 80s, right, that pop culture in the 80s that happened, that really hit millennials. That's big for us. Our childhood was very important to us, right? Like you said, and we're a generation that you actually said this. I'm taking this from you. We're not having kids at the same rate, so we have that income that's like that extra income that we're not spending on children. And I do think that they're going to try to. I know this sounds weird, but I think we're going to try to buy not having children through reliving our childhood as adults.
Well, earlier we looked up the average cost of raising a child from birth to 18 years old
between $200 and $250.
Yeah, so that's a lot of extra money that childless millennials
$250,000.
Yeah, that they're going to have to spend.
And this what I'm saying is, I think the reason I think collectibles will be so successful if the economy holds. And it will ebb and flow, but does well over the next 20 years, is that I think we're trying to buy the children we didn't have by reliving our childhood, which is directly correlated to why we have so many weird Disney adults now.
Yeah.
That don't have kids, but they're going to the park.
Yep.
Or they'll watch these movies from when they were kids, these children movies. They'll watch them at 30, 40 years old during the holidays. That's weird.
Yeah. Well, I think a culture that doesn't value kids becomes backward looking rather than
weird,
forward
strange.
looking.
Yes.
Yeah. But it becomes backward looking instead of forward looking.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And I think that's a major problem in America today, and it's a growing problem.
Yes.
This is another thing that we had talked about before we started recording, was about how there's almost like a blowback against digitizing everything.
Mm-hmm.
How, these collectibles, cards and comic books and whatever else, they're physical items that are not digital. There is no digital baseball card or digital Pokemon. Well,
yes.
Well, there are digital ones, but you can't experience them with your senses. You can't touch them. You can't feel them. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. No, I'm gonna let you continue. They really tried to pump that.
I'm done.
They really tried to pump that during COVID. It was huge. Everyone had excess money. Everyone was sitting at home, right? And which is funny because no one was going to work, but they had
they got their checks though.
They got their checks, but it wasn't enough to make up for not working and shit. But that's when, dude, the card market exploded for the first time since the 80s. Exploded's not the word. It made it mainstream. The news was talking about it. All these grading companies came out. It brought me onto the scene. You know what I mean? And I learned my most valuable lesson, which made my 3 rules. Right? Obviously, I wasn't using money I couldn't afford to lose. So I already had that checked. But I got heavy into sports. I am not overly fascinated with sports. I like soccer a lot, and I watch football. I do. I watch college and pro. But I started investing in baseball players and soccer players and hockey players and all kinds of crazy shit, chasing it. I'm not interested in sports enough to invest in that kind of market. I'm more interested in IP of the cartoon realm, right? I like a lot of the IP in that because it's a lot of stuff that came from the 80s and it's been around for 40 years. I know the IP's there. I know it's strong. It's made it through 2008. It made it through the one in the 90s. I'm okay with that. I know it's going to stick around. Pikachu's not going to become unpopular because of the things it did. It launched a generation, and that generation's at the spot, and they want their children to like that stuff. You know what I mean? So I invest in a lot of stuff that I'm interested in, but I'm sitting on a bag of fucking basketball cards. Just sitting on them. And I don't know shit about basketball. I had no right investing in basketball. It's my biggest L to date is basketball. I was chasing rookies, doing all this crazy shit. But back to the point, they tried to digitalize all this. They really tried to push it with the NFTs and all these cards, and they're still trying to push it. But to your exact point, and like you said, outsider looking in, you nailed this. Right on the head. You nailed this. There's nothing like getting that card, whether it's graded, not graded, raw. If it's raw, it's even better. It hasn't been graded, so you're like, maybe this is a 10. It looks pristine. It's centered. There's no creases, right? And you're holding this card, and sometimes some of these cards are one of one. So there's no other fucker out there that can experience what you're experiencing. Like, you got a favorite song, there's thousands of people listening to it. You're watching a movie, someone else is watching it, right? That card, though, that one of one card, it's in your house right now. If you wanted to, you could burn it, and it's gone out of the world forever. Now, digital, yeah, you could have the one of one. So you go on your computer, you look at it.
But
it's
also
not the same.
But it also kind of brings up the question: what would you rather have? Would you rather have a card that you can mount it and frame it and put it up on the wall, and then whenever you have people over who have similar interests to you, or even people who don't, that would just find something interesting that you find interesting, you can show it to them the way that somebody would show off a piece of art.
Yeah, they'll ask you about it even. It's hanging on your wall. You're like, what is that?
If you have an NFT, on the other hand,
you got to break out your phone and be like,
you're just going to bring
hey
out
guys,
your phone. You're going to be like, hey, check this out.
Yeah, what are you trying to show how big your pecker is? You're like, hey guys, check out, look at that. And you're like, oh, it's a mermaid on a rock smoking a stogie. Nice.
Yeah, they're going to be like, yeah, so
I paid $2,000 for that.
Yeah, I've got a blank wall.
Huh?
So you don't need to pay attention to that. Just pay attention to my little screen here.
Yeah, my screen. Let me show it to you. Now, I will say this because I do jest. I full disclosure, I am invested in 3 different NFT projects. I'm partial owner on 3 different projects that I do think the NFTs have a place in the future, and a lot of people disagree with me on that. But I'll make the statement: 99.8, maybe even 0.9% of NFTs, and I think people are experiencing it now, are going to disappear. They will go to zero. No one cares. They're garbage. I think it's the contracts, the language in NFTs and what they allow us to do. I do think they will cement a place moving forward. I have no doubt about that. But with the craze that happened 3 years ago now, roughly, 2 years, 2.5 years, whatever, I do think there's some projects out there that will make it long term because of their historical impact and the community's impact that they built. So a lot of these NFT projects were rich, get quick, rich, boom, rug pull, who knows, mismanaged. If they don't have someone that is leading them in the right direction, because a lot of these people had big plans and they didn't execute the plans, or they couldn't execute plans. They didn't have the skill set to execute what they wanted. It was just a vision. So people are investing in these visions. But if you have a good executor that are the project manager, the NFTs, I do think there are projects out there that will, in 50 years, be very relevant and be worth a lot of money. So I have 3 that I'm currently invested in.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I just have 3 little NFT projects, and I'm only a partial owner in these NFTs because they're very expensive. So it's like fractional shares, basically.
Well, and that's a fascinating technology. It's, and of course, I don't know a whole lot about it, but just from an outsider looking in, the good thing about digital is that there's no such thing as scarcity with anything digital. Mm-hmm. I can copy a file, an image file, music file, whatever, over and over and over again. and me listening to that music file that I may have copied from you, we can both listen to the same file at the same time on two different devices. You know, it's not like a CD or a record or something like that where there's only one. You know, where you may have a record or something, and if I want a copy of it, then I have to work to make a copy of it, or I have to go buy my own.
So yes and no.
So I guess the thing I would say is the benefit. What NFT does is it allows for you to create scarcity in the digital world.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That you otherwise do not have.
I thought you were saying about NFTs. Okay. Yes, you're correct. It allows scarcity to exist because a lot of these projects, if you own something and you hold it long enough, or you hold it for the right duration or a certain thing, usually you get something from holding these NFTs. You know what I mean? It could be anything. If you hold this particular one, you can redeem this. You know what I mean? There's a lot of cool shit out in the NFT world that they tried, and like I said, dude, talk about crash. It is famine out there right now. A lot of bag holders out there. I never got heavily invested into NFTs. The first time I bought an NFT was 2023. I bought it on the biggest decline. Like, everything I have is up, and it's only up because I don't know if I could have bought it any lower.
Well,
so I did
not
I did not jump on that train. I bought from some poor bastard that spent a lot of money, and he sold them to me because he was like, I have no money. I got to recoup this. So I was like, hey man, I'll buy them. And
the best lessons are expensive lessons.
Yep. I picked them up for pennies of what he paid.
Wow.
Pennies.
Well, so what do you think will end up happening with the NFT market?
Like I said, 99 going to 0. And the projects that do solidify themselves and they are executed by their, the people generaling them are going to solidify their. It's no different than anything else that came out. Dude, like, we just think Pokemon is Pokemon. Pokemon came out with like 50 other card games during that time. Oh, like, no one's talking about Digimon. Digimon tried. Yu-Gi-Oh does have it got really popular.
It's got a following.
It's got a following, though. You know what I mean?
Magic the Gathering.
Magic the Gathering has a huge following. But no one talks about the 100 other card games that didn't make it. And there are hundreds of them that didn't make it. It's going to be the same thing with NFT. We just act like those games came out and everyone was like, fuck, that's it. That's the game. That's not how it happened, man. You know what I mean? There was hundreds of other games that tried. You didn't think people saw fucking Pokemon and they're like, let's copy that idea and just come out with the card game? They didn't have the executors for it. No one cared, and now no one talks about the game. The game's gone. It's erased. It's out of everyone's. You even had some that were successful. Let's take Beanie Babies. That's not a card game, but let's take Beanie Babies as an example. Dude, that was huge. Everyone had Beanie Babies, and no one cares about Beanie Babies anymore. They're garbage.
There are still people that have their life savings in Beanie Babies.
Bag holders.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid that's going to be the NFT market because people aren't using my 3 rules. Money you can lose. Are you actually interested in the project? Are you chasing that bag? Are you interested in the project? And did you do 100 hours of research? And I promise you the people that have those NFTs didn't follow those 3 rules.
Well, and as far as with NFTs, that's the thing that's always interested me the most. It's the technology of being able to objectively verify like a contract, to objectively settle financial transactions and things instantly. Mm-hmm. Because you've got the whole log. Mm-hmm. It's basically this. It's the same underlying tech public. As crypto. It's the same thing as crypto. It's all public. You have the transaction logs and everything, and it automatically settles. That is a revolution in and of itself. But I think it's the underlying process. It's the technology. It's the new method that's of value. It's not that it can make a digital piece of art scarce.
Well, the reason I think the NFT contracts and what I find most interesting is it allows people who create something, right, to actually get paid for the fruits of their labor. So let's say you create a piece of content that's an NFT and you sell it, and it's written into the contract that the original creator gets a percent of that, and you bought it from me, so I got paid. You bought it. Now you're the owner, and you sell it. You made your money. That contract's going to give me a percent if I write it correctly. So the original creator of something can always actually be. It's a continuous, revenue stream from him. He never loses his what he created. He's always getting paid for it, if the contract's written like that. I find that very fascinating. I think that's going to be used a lot. Especially, I think we're going to see this go into a lot of literary work. I think it's going to be a way around books and stuff like that. If people just kind of like open and sell it on the thing, I think it's going to be easy for that. Musicians are trying to use it. Getting a movie funded. You could sell someone the movie rights, and then the original people keep getting paid. But anyone that buys it through the distribution channels, it makes it so much easier for the actual original person to get paid. And I think they can even write into contracts where, like this movie strike in LA with the actors, the directors, and all that. Well, this would settle a lot of that because they would be compensated directly based off, their 0.00001% of the movie they're entitled to. You know what I mean? Or it could be written any way. They would be compensated directly off of how well the movie actually did, which there's a settlement for them, right? I know they're getting worried about like AI, like not owning their actual image. I think Disney was the one that wanted to buy a bunch of people and then say, we own your light. We can use you whenever. It's going to be interesting. We have an interesting 20 years ahead of us. That's for sure.
Well, let's start
wrapping this up.
Start winding down.
Yeah.
Next week will be episode 20. So we'll have to make next week a very interesting one.
We got to make that special, dude.
Yeah.
That's got to be a special one. And then so probably not next week, but we will have the Ireland Italy. And next week, let's try to get a guest. I think I have someone very special.
Let's do it.
I think we're gonna have to record on a Friday.
Okay.
All right.
I am good with that.
Beautiful.
All right. Sounds good.
Good shit, man. Love you guys. See you soon.